Hey guys, welcome to DarkKnightNation for our spoiler review of Antman and the Wasp. If you haven't yet, go check out our non-spoiler discussion of the film, which will be linked down in the description below. Just to give you all an idea of what we do for movie night, each episode we do a brief discussion on thoughts and reactions to the film. If you're worried about spoilers, don't be. The first half of the discussion will be posted as a non-spoiler talk, and will give you all a chance to see it yourselves. If you enjoy the content and want to see more videos like this, click that thumbs up button and subscribe to the channel for more. Like in the non-spoiler portion of the review, I have a guest and a good buddy of mine here to discuss the movie with. Welcome back, Tyson. Thanks for coming back on.
Hey, how you doing?
So, you have a radio show starting back up in the fall. You want to let the good folks on YouTube know what it's all about?
Yep. It's just like I said in the other review, it's just a pop culture show where me and a friend of mine just talk about whatever we feel like talking about, usually about movies and music and TV and stuff. And if you want more information about that, follow us on Twitter at whatever the show.
Sounds like a plan. We'll plug that down in the description below for all of those who want to check it out. So be warned, all of you, this is a spoiler review for Antman and the Wasp, so if you haven't seen it, feel free to tab out, save this video for later, go watch our non-spoiler review, which will also be up. And if not, if you're feeling risky, glad you're here with us, and let's get into the movie. So, obviously, we got to go with the opening of the film. So, do you think the opening of the movie did a good job at drawing you in?
Yeah, I really like the trend that Marvel has of opening up with something to get you going.
Like this big, vigorous action scene.
And pull at the heartstrings a little bit, and then you kind of flow into the rest of the video. Like they did it with Guardians, they do that. They did that a little bit with Civil War. So I like that.
Yeah. So for those of you that are joining in with us, the opening of the movie is kind of like a rehash and an exploration of a scene that we're shown in the first Ant-Man. Yeah, briefly, where Janet Van Dyne has to sink to submolecular size in order to disassemble the rocket heading towards a heavily populated area. But the thing that they kind of delve a little bit deeper on this time is her and Hank leaving Hope at home the day before Janet Van Dyne is quote-unquote killed.
Yeah.
So, they do a really good job at kind of... That adds, the emotional gravitas to, Hope and her character.
Yeah.
And even to Hank having to come home to his daughter and say, your mom didn't make it,
It just adds... It's like emotion. We already knew that story, which is giving us
more weight to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a solid way to open the movie. And then we, go into a little bit of an exploration of Scott Lang, obviously the star of the movie, and his daughter Cassie, which I think is great because obviously in the first one, most of the time he's either in prison or with Hank Pym and Nadia, or Hope, sorry, comic book sort of thing, Hank and Hope, and now we get to see a little bit of him and his daughter, and from the first one that he does it all for her, and now you actually finally get to see him with her and playing, and how much she idolizes him and everything he does, both as a father and as a superhero.
I think she's just into him being Ant-Man.
Yeah.
It's not like we're not hiding anything. We're not hiding something from the FBI, but
super supportive too.
Yeah.
I one thing I really like too is the stepfather to his daughter.
Yeah. I like that. He's just always.
He's like the bromance in the movie. Like he loves Scott. Ironically, in the first one, all he wanted to do was get the guy out of his house. So I guess saving someone's life can do that to you.
Yeah.
But I think overall this movie had a pretty solid plot. I think the first two acts of this movie were nearly bulletproof for the most part. For me, it kind of falls a little bit shorter in the third act, but nothing too crazy.
It's just a lot of crashing into each other.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't have the emotional weight of the end of Civil War or something.
Yeah, I totally understand.
Not after those.
What I like too is in their marketing of the movie, you kind of have no idea about the villain until you see the movie. People can come up with all these different things, but I don't think anybody really guessed.
That's the thing. And we all should. We all see Lawrence Fishburne's in the trailer. I bet he's just a cameo. I bet we only see him for 5 minutes. We should all get that. I totally did it, but
I had no idea he was in the movie. Glad he was. He really added to it for me.
That's what I meant in the non-spoiler review about not having quite a solid villain. He appears as a villain and then pretty quickly is not a villain.
Well, he's obviously not.
He's more of he's a character.
I never at one point considered him the villain. He's kind of this is a bad analogy because a lot of people won't know Deathstroke stuff, but He's almost the Alfred to like a Bruce Wayne going down a dark path. That's a little bit better of an analogy. He's here to guide her. And I really like the dynamic, too, between, like, him and Hank, and you get to see a little bit behind, like, Hank's past relationship.
I guess that's what I mean, but there's not really a villain. It's not like there's good people and bad people. It's just kind of a spectrum of characters. That's what I meant. Like, it's just characters, and, like, you're like, I don't know, you're just, like, more of a spectrum rather than...
Yeah, and I think, too, first and foremost, the difference between, like, how we approach what our thoughts on the villain of this movie is... You are thinking about the overall scheme where we just got Killmonger and Thanos, easily the two best villains in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Where for me, like, I just recently rewatched Antman to get myself into it, and
we've definitely come along.
Yeah, and but I'm comparing it to Darren Cross, who gets a pretty poor explanation as to why he starts to kind of go insane.
He's just a bad version of a good guy.
Yeah, essentially. So this character is a little bit more grounding, So we find out that this character is a lot more sympathetic than you might believe from the get-go. Her father was a scientist for S.H.I.E.L.D. He apparently tried to steal some of Hank Pym's work, so he got discredited and was definitely irrational. So that's where his irrationality kicks in. He is kind of feverish to kickstart his career again, and he tries experimenting with the quantum technology and quantum sciences, which leads to both him and his wife dying, his daughter getting caught in the blast, and having this ability to phase through objects by shifting the density and the form of matter that her body takes form of. So,
she did a good job with that. She did a good job.
Yeah, I mean, I think, in the beginning, before she kind of hits those more, like, insane notes of, villainous behavior, I think that she's super... I don't want to say relatable, because obviously my parents didn't get, blown up. But, like, she's a little bit easier to connect to as a character, So I quite enjoyed her as a villain, like I said. I mean, obviously comparing her to someone like Killmonger or Thanos.
I mean, I say not a villain as a compliment. I like that. I like because really the focus of the movie, that's what I say. The central action at the end of the movie is not fighting her; it's getting Janet back. That's the central conflict of the third act. Is we have to go to this place and get her back. She's just kind of like a wrench in the cog of that.
Yeah. So for you guys listening, essentially the main observing plot of this movie is for the kind of like Team Ant-Man, Hank, Hope, and Scott Lang to go into the quantum realm and get back Janet Van Dyne, who's Hank Pym's wife, which, like we said before, she had to go to subatomic size in order to disarm the missile. You never see her again. At the end of the first Ant-Man, Scott Lang is able to do it and come back. Yeah. So that's what gives them hope of retrieving Janet and having that big unification between the characters. So speaking of the villain and bringing back Janet Van Dyne, ultimately the villain's goal is to cure herself of this phase shifting because it's splitting her cells apart, and she wants to kind of siphon the quantum energy from Janet Van Dyne into herself in some way that they really don't explain very well, so that her cells can become whole and structured. But in the process, the massive release of quantum energy from Janet would, in all likelihood, kill her. Yeah. So it's a race to see who gets to Janet first. So overall, do you think the villain served its purpose for the plot and the story of the movie?
Especially because Marvel movies have always been about the heroes. So villains are really just a way to bring out the good side of the heroes. Yeah. So I think it was fine. She's not making any.
I mean, I think she's a top 10 villain. Considering
I like a lot of villains that I really don't like. I really like Obadiah Stane. I really like the Red Skull.
I like the Red Skull. I like Obadiah. I think that we've seen some really, really weak Marvel movies. Not Marvel movies. Marvel villains, I should say.
Although I like and it's tough because sometimes you like a villain, but the movie doesn't really show that. I love the idea of Justin Hammer. I think Sam Rockwell was awesome as Justin Hammer. Yeah. He just wasn't utilized well, and I would love to see Justin.
So ultimately, do you think this villain was utilized well?
Yeah. I think this is the trend that Marvel should go in.
Yeah, it's the villain's doing its job.
Sympathetic characters rather than just surprise, this guy is evil.
Yeah, this guy's
evil and born from the beginning.
This guy hates the hero. Why? Because
this guy's just bad.
Yeah.
Why? He's just bad.
Yeah.
Real bad.
Cool. So now that we kind of got the villain down, let's talk about the resolution of the movie. Do you think that the end of this movie, and I guess the whole third act, was a good falling action and wraps up the movie nicely?
Yeah, it's fine. I was kind of going into this movie hoping for a little bit more tying into the overall story of things.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm kind of upset that we. I would have liked it if we had more spoiler things to talk about. Like, oh, this is totally gonna tie into before like you can't. I can't have everything.
Yeah, so most of you should know by now that this movie takes place before Infinity War.
And actually, that's a good transition to the end credit scene.
Yeah, so the end credit scene for the movie is crazy. So they're exploring the quantum realm so that they can retrieve some particles in the atmosphere of the quantum realm in order to help heal Ghost. Spoilers, the Ghost ends up becoming an ally, I guess, at the end.
Or just someone that they're going to help.
Yeah, so they resolved that nicely. And they send Scott into the quantum realm, and he's trying to radio them back. And they've all faded away because Thanos snapped his fingers. Yeah. So Scott's stuck in the quantum realm.
Yeah. Which I think that's pretty much how I thought it would go. I thought it would be like Scott's up to something.
I thought it was interesting because obviously I think they try to play it off as if like potentially Scott had it first because there was like Scott radio check and he goes silent, and then I was like after they did that I was like they're done, like they're gone.
They're gone.
Which like for me, like we go back and even though I feel like I knew what was coming, I was like all three of them.
Yeah. That's my one thing. I understand why. I wish they were a little bit more subtle about who faded away and who didn't. Like
in what way?
It just it really like the 6 original Avengers, none of them faded away. It was all new people. Like I thought it would. I assumed going into it that it would be like 3 of the like. I think like Tony would fade away and Captain Thor would still be there. Like I see why they did it like that.
Yeah.
But like it's like everybody who's new or not essential, but not one of the 6 fades away, and like the 6 and friends are still there.
Well, I mean, I don't know, because we do get some pretty random survivors. You know, like we get Rocket and Antman. I wonder if him being in the quantum realm affected whether or not he was going to dissipate. I mean, spoiler for the second end credit scene: ants survive.
Yeah, ants survive. Yeah, that's the end credit scene is just the ant playing the drums.
Yeah,
playing the drums are like a running joke.
Yeah, it's him playing Rock Band during his house arrest.
Yeah.
But so there was the end credit scene. I mean, I think they should have swapped places, and then for the ant end credit scene, they could have just
had the ant playing the drums.
And not shown like the outside. I think that would have just been funny. I don't think it like the fact that you see that he's around and like no one else is. I don't think it adds anything. I think it would have been funny, and then you end it on like, holy shit, the Wasp, Hank Pym, and Janet Van Dyne are all gone.
See, this is a greater point, but I really want them to, for Captain Marvel, as much as I want her to have her own movie, I want the playing field to change at the end of Captain Marvel. I want some kind of information drop. I want something that gives me a hint of where they're going before.
But yeah, I mean, I wasn't really excited for Captain Marvel. I also wasn't excited for Antman and the Wasp. Walking out of it, I'm actually really excited.
That's funny. I'm actually less. I was probably about the same. I was probably more excited for Captain Marvel, and then I'm very excited for Captain Marvel now, just because I want to know more about the world. And I want them to expand it.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much that they can still do, and then with them potentially acquiring the Fox properties, it's limitless. We get the X-Men, and we get the first family Marvel back. So.
And also the fact that I don't know if you've seen the Brie Larson.
I haven't seen anything, but she has an Academy Award, doesn't she? An Oscar? Yeah.
I'm very excited.
So that's always good. I mean, but unfortunately, cast isn't everything. However, Kevin Feige has proven time and time again that he can, kind of put this whole universe in a nice bow and kind of set different presents under the Christmas tree in all the right spots.
Yeah.
So, we'll see. I'm definitely more excited for that movie than I ever was. I never really cared much for Captain Marvel because in the comics, for the most part, regardless of what anyone else thinks, she's been pretty weak.
I don't think I've ever read a comic book with her. I think maybe Kang Dynasty she is.
Yeah, she's maybe had 2 or 3 comic book stories where she's been like a strong, essential character that's not overplayed. But for the most part, I've never really cared much about her, and I've always had a little bit of angst because she stole DC's Captain Marvel, the name. But, that's just me. The ending of the movie, for me, I think, was or the third act, not necessarily the end of the movie, was where things get a little bit shakier. Yeah. They introduced the fact that Hank has given Scott Lang a brand new Ant-Man suit that's a little bit faulty, but you find out that partway through the movie, Scott has the old suit, which is obviously fully functional, and the new suit really doesn't display anything different besides the aesthetics. So it's like, where's the... Yeah, so it doesn't change much, but like there's this running thing at the end of the movie that like Scott can't really control himself, where like he could have just put the old suit on and or just taken the old regulator and put it in the new suit. So I thought...
I think just like the gag.
Yeah, I just, for me, that gag was probably my biggest letdown of the movie. I was just like, it's kind of inconsistent. Like, you poked your own bubble, you know? And I think there are certain things that I come to expect from these movies, you know? Like, for example, the first Deadpool, I thought it was really funny because, you know, when he's going in for the big battle, you find out he leaves that like, Hello Kitty backpack with all of his weapons in the taxi. And I was like, he just left all the weapons in the taxi? And he gets a call, or calls Binder. And he's just like, DP, you forgot your weapons. I was like, you just punched me in the face, and I'm okay with that. Yeah. Like, you just proved me. But that didn't happen here. They poked a hole in their own plot. So I thought that was a little bit lackluster. But, you know, in the end, it was a solid movie. I think I'd give it at least an 8 out of 10. 7, really?
Yeah, it's just good.
What,
it's like...
So for you, what would you say is like just above it and just below it in terms of quality?
I would say it's right around the territory of Doctor Strange, what else? Like Thor 1, like just kind of regular good Marvel movie, nothing really wrong with it.
What would you have given the first Ant-Man?
The first Ant-Man?
By comparison,
maybe around a 7 too.
Really?
Yeah, like I would give this one, the Ant-Man and the Wasp, like an edge over it, but like same kind of territory, same like solid Marvel movie, nothing really wrong with it. But like we've just gotten so many good Marvel movies that it's like... Yeah, there was nothing in this movie... When I watched Black Panther or Spider-Man Homecoming or... Not so much Thor Ragnarok, but I'm like, yes, I'm 100% into it. This movie, I was like, it's good.
Yeah, I mean, I really... It's a great... And here's the thing. It's a great, like, summer action film without just being the summer action film. You know, it's not Mission Impossible where it's just mindless action. You actually get character development and action and Marvel comedy... in what I think is one of the better, you know, displays of Marvel doing their shtick.
I guess the difference for me is I walk out of Black Panther, I love Black Panther. I walk out of Spider-Man Homecoming, I love Spider-Man. I walk out of this movie, I was like, that was a good Marvel movie.
Yeah, I mean, it was solid. I mean, we're picky now, you know? Like,
exactly.
We've had, you know, 20, I think it's exactly 20 now.
If we were having this conversation, even in the early 2000s, we'd be like, this was great, like, oh my god, this was amazing, I don't know how. We're
in a world where we've gotten a shitty Green Lantern movie, but we've gotten a Green Lantern movie. You know what I mean?
I would say, like, we have a third Thor movie.
Yeah.
We thought we were going to have a third Thor movie.
I never did. We're getting an Aquaman movie directed by, like, a master of horror.
Which I'm excited for. I don't expect too much from it. But.
Yeah, not to go too far off the rails, I am also very excited. You guys will definitely be hearing a review from us when that one comes out. I think, too, as long as, like, and from the press screenings and, like, the set photos, set images, we got some really great pictures of and a good idea of like what the cinematography is going to be like, and I think that that's something that they can really take advantage of being underwater. Like, imagine seeing that in IMAX, how good that'll look.
And like, you're good at directing horror. You're just good at directing
most things.
That's the thing. If you can direct horror, you can direct anything. Yeah. Steven Spielberg is the best horror director ever. And I'll go into this is a conversation
for another time.
But like, if you can direct great horror, you can direct anything.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'd give this movie, I mean, maybe not necessarily an 8, somewhere between a 7.5 and an 8 for me. I think that...
very little problem with this movie.
Yeah, here's the thing, it's consistent, you know what I mean? Like, we've talked about Iron Man 3, where for me, I think that movie has just straight up bad moments, and that's why...
Here's the thing, it's like, so Thor Ragnarok is Thor Ragnarok has the potential to be someone's favorite Marvel movie. I know people, Thor Ragnarok is their favorite Marvel movie. I also know some people like you and like other people that really are like, it wasn't for me. I didn't like it.
Yeah,
it's fine. This is not going to be anybody's favorite movie. It's also not going to be anybody's
least favorite.
It's not the bottom of anybody's.
Oh yeah, it's a consistent movie for the for the most part. I don't have any huge problems. You know, it's not like the night I walked out of the opening premiere for Batman v Superman. You know, I didn't go into this with crazy expectations, and I didn't walk out disappointed. I actually think I walked out a little bit more, like I said before, I walked out with a little bit more excitement for what Marvel has after seeing this movie because, I hadn't, before rewatching Ant-Man recently, I hadn't seen it since the movie came out. So I think that's pretty cool. So now that this is all over, do you have any hypothesis or ideas of where you think Ant-Man's going to end up next, whether it be him in Avengers, in Avengers 4, or in his next solo film?
Yeah. So I think it's pretty clear that he's going to be MacGuffin in Avengers 4. He's going to be because I think Hawkeye will come in pretty early. They'll get the six back together, I think, pretty early in the movie. And they'll be at a moment where I don't know, what should we do next? And Ant-Man will show up.
Do you think Ant-Man's going to be like the Deus Ex Machina for the movie?
I don't think it'll be like the big third act thing. I think it'll be someone in the second act who oh, how do we track this, or how do we get to here? And then one person will be I know a guy, or we'll get some kind of message like that kind of thing. Kind of like how he was in Civil War, where he was I know somebody.
Yeah, I feel like he should have brought an ant with him into the quantum realm, so could have flown it out. I don't know how that would have affected the ant, but I digress. I think that I agree. I think that he's definitely going to show up in Infinity War Part 2, quote unquote. And I think that he's going to play a big role. I think he's going to be a contributing factor in getting the gauntlet off of Thanos.
Yeah, possibly.
Because it's a big surprise with him. And I think his arrival is going to be a big surprise. Whereas Hawkeye, it's going to be...
I think Hawkeye, first 20 minutes, we'll see Hawkeye.
I'd give you that. I would say first 35 to 40 minutes.
Yeah, early in the movie.
First act. First act of the film.
Let's go grab Hawkeye real quick, and then we'll go on our adventure.
Yeah, first act of the movie, we're going to get the originals, which I can't be upset about. Like I said, the Russo brothers, out of all the directors besides maybe Ryan Coogler, they've technically proven their consistency more so than any other director in the Marvel franchise. So, I have faith in where they're going with Ant-Man, and I'm interested to see whether or not Peyton Reed stays on to direct a third Ant-Man film.
Honestly, I wouldn't be mad if he stays on, but I would understand if they wanted somebody else.
To be completely honest, man, I would kind of be down for some Jon Favreau Ant-Man if he was ever
up. Oh, that's good.
But I feel like now he might be a little bit too high profile,
Because that's what Marvel likes to do. Marvel likes grabbing people that are oh, you're little. Put you on that.
That's what happened. Look at James Gunn. All I know he directed was some small-time indie films for the most part. Maybe one big studio movie.
Same thing with the Russo brothers. Same thing with
Taika Waititi. Yeah.
Ryan Coogler is probably, besides Joss Whedon, is probably the biggest, and Shane Black are the biggest names.
Favreau was a pretty big name.
Favreau was a big name, but
not as big.
Whedon. Yeah, but yeah.
We'll see. Like I said, I'm pretty excited to see where we go from here, and I'm definitely up for some more of the Ant-Man and Wasp dynamic. I think what they pushed in this movie between them was great, and I wouldn't be mad if they did Ant-Man and the Wasp 2.
Yeah, or whatever. I think it should stay top billing.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the actress killed it. The way that they wrote her was great. So overall the movie was well written. It was consistent, and I don't have any big holes to poke in it. So with that being said, I think that that's going to wrap up our spoiler discussion of the movie. So I hope you all go out there and watch the movie for yourself. It was definitely great. I always like seeing decent movies, get some decent box office numbers. Rip Solo.
Yeah.
So, if you guys enjoyed the conversation, want to see more, feel free to like and subscribe to the channel. We'll be glad to hear from you in the comment section as well. Let us know, what did you think of the movie? Or even how we could improve for the next time we do a movie night review, What's the next one on the radar? What's the next big movie?
Well, Aquaman maybe
Star Wars. Star Wars is in December. Well, barely, but I think they're going to move it up. I digress.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you guys enjoyed, definitely like and subscribe to the channel for more. And if you're into the comic book content, we have a lot of that as well with weekly pull list episodes. So check us out. Again, Tyson, thank you for coming on.
Yeah, absolutely.
And don't forget to check him out and his partner Devin for their radio show. It's at Whatever the Show on Twitter right now. They'll be starting back up in the fall, right?
Yep. September.
All right, guys. Well, thank you for watching, and we'll catch you on the next episode from Dark Knight Nation.